So what is a poetic analysis? Well, it's an essay that, number one, defines the theme of a poem, and two, describes how poetic devices are used to develop that theme. Okay? Now, I should note at this point, be sure to use pause and rewind as often as you need to on this video to make sure you get all the material that I discuss. Make sure that you get it down in your notes, and also make sure that you understand it. Of course, also write down any questions that you have on the left-hand page of your notes. So knowing that a poetic analysis identifies the theme of a poem and that it talks about how poetic devices develop that theme, let's have a look at how we actually are going to write one. Well, first of all, you'd have to complete a TPCASTT of a poem or a selection of a poem. Once you've completed that TPCASTT, you need to really make sure that the theme you've decided on is both feasible and defensible. Feasible meaning it makes sense within the context of the poem. It's not way out there. That it's not too broad and not too narrow, but that it's just right. And defensible meaning that there's evidence for that theme within the poem. Once you've done that, the third step is to identify the strongest patterns that you found in the TPCASTT and determine how they relate to the theme. At this point, it's important to mention that you're not going to write everything from your TPCASTT into a poetic analysis. You're only going to be using the very strongest evidence, the strongest 2 or 3 poetic devices from the poem in the poetic analysis. Okay? In front of you, you should have my sample poetic analysis of My Papa's Waltz. I want you to notice that this is not a complete essay. This essay is missing a few things. It's missing an introduction in the first paragraph, or an opening. It's missing a second body paragraph, and it's missing a conclusion. I gave you just part of a poetic analysis because I want you to see the overall structure of a poetic analysis, and I want you to see the kind of thinking and communication that goes into one. I don't necessarily need you to see an entire one at this point, but do note that your poetic analysis will have an opening in the first paragraph, it will have multiple body paragraphs, it will have a concluding paragraph. Okay? You'll notice that the thesis statement is 1 sentence long. Okay, here's my thesis right here. In Theodore Roethke's poem, My Papa's Waltz, the theme that happy childhood memories can be tinged with sorrow is developed through diction and shifts in tone. You'll notice that in that thesis I mention the theme, and then I mention 2 poetic devices that help develop that theme. Next, you will notice that the first poetic device I discussed, my first body paragraph, is about diction. Diction, by the way, is word choice. You may want to take note of that. I don't believe the word diction is found anywhere in the packet of poetic devices I gave you, but diction does refer to a poet's word choice. Okay? Next, I want you to notice a few things about this paragraph. Read through the paragraph on your own, and I want you to notice that, first of all, the opening sentence describes what poetic device I'm going to be discussing in this paragraph. Next, throughout the paragraph, throughout the body of the paragraph, you'll notice that I discuss the poetic device diction in 2 separate ways. First, I describe the happy aspects of the diction. Next, I describe the sad or violent aspects of it. Finally, I wrap up the paragraph with a sentence right here. It says, the contrast between playful diction and sad, violent diction shows the conflicted nature of the boy's memories. This final sentence shows how my evidence in the paragraph proves my thesis, how the evidence in the paragraph develops the theme that happy childhood memories can be tinged with sorrow. You'll also notice that the opening sentence of my next paragraph, which is all you get of the next paragraph, transitions from the previous one and tells you very clearly what I'm going to be talking about in that paragraph. Okay? So you're going to want to make sure that you follow the same pattern in your poetic analyses. At this point, I encourage you to make sure your notes are caught up on this. Make sure you write down the observations that I've made and any additional observations that you have about this poetic analysis. Also write down any questions you have.